Hey, what's going on? I'm Friction and here today with Fat Magazine, basically putting together a drum and bass tune, a sort of core of a drum and bass tune, and how I would start putting the idea down and getting rolling with a brand new track. So let's do it. What I will start off with today is a kick, and I'll find sort of like a half decent kick. I've got one in here, nice kick, so that should do the trick. So if we start it as like a 2-bar little loop. So this is quite a cool kick. It's already got quite a lot of punch to it already. It's one I've used a few times in different tracks. Quite a few samples that I'll use as well that have gone through the production process in other tunes, and I always try and bounce stuff off and use them again, because certain things they can work really well. And it's important just processing stuff. Sometimes you can over process stuff but you can hear it, and this kick, just I've used it quite a few times and it just works really well in a lot of projects. So if I start with my kick, put the snare in first. So these are a couple of snares that I actually got off a really great sample pack, which is one of the DLR sample packs. For someone like me that's more focused on DJing, you know, like the technical side of production, I've kind of had to learn myself over the years. It really helps me get a vibe if I can work with really good samples. So what we'll start doing first, as I say, we're working with the drums, so just want to kind of get a rough little vibe with some drums. Now, an important thing to do is to layer your drums. You really want to sort of layer them and get everything sounding really chunky. With this, that's another sort of snare that I found in this pack. Found this one, which is a really good little way of layering your snare. So it's like a little extra weighty snare. I haven't done any transients yet, so it sounds a bit rubbish at the moment, but basically this will give you that extra little bit of weight. Hopefully more, I think it's more in the sort of like 200 hertz sort of area, and just give you a bit more of a punch and a bit more weight to it. And yeah, it's just my way, but I won't get into the EQ part of it too quickly. So I just want to build it up and just fill out the drums basically. Stick a few extra little loops in. This is another really cool loop that I've got, just some like extra tops basically, just give you a little bit more bite, a little bit more energy, and start filling in the high end of the tune, which is important. Now I wanted to do something sort of, like I say, on a sort of modern jungle tip. So this is a break I wanted to use. Actually use this break in Mad in the Jungle, and I really like this break. Now I've split this into 2 bits, so there are 2 sort of sections. Just get the gain up, get it one. About the same. I'll probably leave, you know, like trying to mix it properly, I'll leave that right to the end of what we're doing now, but what I will start to do is grouping everything together. And give everything its own bust for now. So that's just like a standard crash, just one I've taken from my library. And what I'll try and do, this is the first thing I'll sort of really sort of try and work and mould into it, because I use these type of crashes at the start of a 16-bar loop or when it drops or whatever, just to give the track that extra little bit of bite when it first kicks in. First thing I do, which I do with the majority of my track, is make sure it's low cut. I make sure that any of the really super low frequencies won't be in there, because all that's going to do is kind of cloud your mix really, and just like take away from trying to hit that powerful mix that you're kind of searching for. Just literally just fade out the end of it a little bit, just so it ends a little bit smoother. And just if you listen to the way it ends, just ends a little bit abruptly. So with this one, I'll probably really basic, not even a, you know, not mad, just literally a bit of tape delay. Just literally to put on the end of it, just to sort of smooth it in. So just a bit, make it a little bit longer. and as opposed to it sort of abruptly finishing before. This is something I use all the time, and it's a Native Instruments bit of kit, and it's called Transient Master, and it is basically use it on a lot of my snares, because what you can do is just messing around with the attack and the sustain, and obviously the gain as well, but you can just get that extra little bit of snap and bite into your snare by using the transients. Nowadays it's so important to have the transients of your snares. If you're multi sort of layering snares, you've got to have your transients bang on. And just with this one, you just get that little extra bite. And if you turn it up, your attack there, or if you go back, it takes away the sort of snap. So you'd put that. So with this one, it will see if I've got this other one, I'm going with it. So I take the attack off if I want to get that extra little bit of bite. So the beat's moving like this, and what I need to do is make a little bus for my snare, just to give it a little bit of reverb. Just give it a little subtle amount, just to widen it a little bit. As well. So what that's doing, that is sending the signal of that snare, DLR snare 8, to another bus channel and adding one on top, which is why I like to do it like this. Basically just low cut it, loads. And just have, so you can hear there, it's just like a little reverb version of that snare. So let's move on to the bass line. Massive patch here that really works and really feels like that old sort of jungle type patch, and I'll sort of run through it quickly. So probably play that down a little bit, get it in there, hit the F note, which should be around 40 or 50 hertz when I play it. And you see it's covering other frequencies as well, and I see it covers quite a few sort of a good frequency range, so you can have a tune and just basically have that on its own. You don't need to layer it up with too much else. You can add little bits of it now and again, but it will fill the room on its own. So there's my Reese, and also obviously high cut it quite a bit, because we don't need anything else in there. We just literally need that sort of area of the bass. So we've got kind of like a nice little solid beat. And the bass working well. So the instant sort of feeling I'm having first is that it's not got loads of bite to it. So I have actually made for this one a way, if you see before, I was kind of messing around with the tube and everything in massive to try and like make it a little bit raw. What I have done, I've got a distorted one somewhere here. In all my crazy names, I made like a little high-end version. You can see there in the EQ, in the Logic EQ, not only has it got sort of like the top end taken off, but taking off quite a bit at the bottom end. There's a bit more distortion and all that kind of stuff, just to sort of make an extra layer. So all I have to do is copy the MIDI from there. So it's just like an extra sort of nasty kind of like, obviously I'll just bring that down again because I don't want too much of it. We'll start putting in a few little bits of effects. Just like a basic white noise. And I would have made that in Serum. Just, you know, it's got some filter on it and stuff, and just kind of a little bit of pitch. Just adds for an extra little bit of soundscape. Just have a little look in the Ozone image. I've still got Ozone 5, I know, that's just really need to upgrade that. But just having a look at it, it's very stereo already, so that's kind of what I wanted. Here's another one basically doing the reverse of that. Again, make sure I take all the low out of it. Well, not all the low, but a good chunk of low. You don't need to really do that because that's nice and stereo already. So this is a cool little atmos really, just that I would have in the intro of the tune. Works quite well, just literally sitting behind, keep it quite simple, quite minimal. And we're starting to fill it out a little bit now. Keep it moving. Quite a nice little loop I found earlier. So the good thing is, what I normally do, so if I've got a loop like this, and it's great because it actually tells you it's 130 BPM. But what I would normally do is take this into Ableton, and we're not going to have time for that. But I'll do it really quickly in Logic. This is the great thing about Logic now, is that you've got a really good little transpose section. I mean, that sounds pretty poor just on its own, but if I go in and just add a few little bits and pieces. Love this Valhalla vintage vibe, it's so nice. Just trying different things out really, just to see. I really like this also from Sound Toys, this is Crystallizer. Just have a little subtle something else extra on it. And now a loop with the drum should sound. Back into it as well, have a look at the sort of stereo image of it, and it's pretty good, it's nice and wide. So now we've got a good element of music with our tune. And we've so far sort of built it up, because there's more elements in there now, so when I'll sort of add a bit of limiting to the whole track. Always use the Pro L, it's a really good limiter. Smash it out too much yet. Always put the oversampling on 4. Kind of, in my eyes, it kind of makes it sound a little bit less harsh. Add a few other little noises and stuff in there. This is quite a good little riser I always use. Another riser here, need to get in there. And these are great, this is from Nexus, so it's really easy to use. What's great about those Nexus bits is you can sort of like use them and they come with a lot of pre-assigned stuff, so it's already on the modulation. There's some like pitch there and some reverb, which basically just gets you going, gets things moving a lot quicker. If you want to get a quick vibe going, you know, they've got sort of like reverbs and filters already assigned to the modulation and stuff, so it's so easy to add these little last things. And I always get so bored of like putting effects in and all that, unless you've got a really interesting bit of effects, you know what I mean? But a lot of the time it's quite a boring thing, so happy to just get them in there as quickly as possible and fill out the tune. Just another little sound really to put in there. So we're good to go. One thing that would be good to put in this tune, we get like a little vocal in there. So I found, and this is where I use the whole sort of Ableton combining it with Logic type thing. And I've just quickly timed it up a little bit. It's going to be all quite rough, but I've got this little vocal, little common vocal.
I said, come on, y'all, get live, get down.
So that common vocal will work pretty cool. So let's bounce that off. I love working with vocals. Like, it's so great to be able to add a little vocal flavour to your tune. So what I'd probably do with this.
I said, come on, y'all, get live, get down.
Just to get a rough sort of vibe for now. And I use this a lot as well as the isotope nectar. And then it's like a vocal processing tool. And you've got your settings on there, so say for instance if I want to find like...
I said, come on, y'all, get live, get down.
So that one, and basically what they've done there is just giving it a load of extra, like, or quite a bit of extra sort of high end, loads of saturation, loads of compression. And then what I would normally do would use this to get a sort of start of a vibe, and then I would replace each part of what I'm doing. So I'd use a different standalone EQ. I'd compress it on its own with a sort of like standalone compressor and process it and do all the sort of bits that it's done in here, but do them individually basically. So it's a bit more of a sort of carefully sort of done process. Maybe add a little bit of tape delay to it just quickly.
I said, come on, y'all, get live, get down.
So for the purposes of what we're doing now, that is pretty much enough, and we'd have enough to sort of start writing a tune. Pretty much. The automation's caught my eyes with there, so that means work. Focus on my levels really as I'm going around trying to sort of get a really good mix and get a good body of sound with it. Sort of like the basis of a tune, and that's how I sort of would most likely put an idea together and start building something up and work around this, and then I go into the mix sort of process and start, like I say, I've got a kick there that's completely dry pretty much at the moment, but I know it's been processed quite a few times in other tunes, so I know that it will sound all right basically. And I'll go in on my snares and go in on the whole drum bus and just level everything out and start working it all. But that is pretty much the top and bottom of how I get an idea together and making a drum and bass tune work. So that's about it really.